Hello, I'm Grayson, and this is my final exam for History 100. So first I want to talk about what this class has taught me as a whole, what I've learned from this class from a very broad standpoint. We'll get more into details, but this class has taught me that a lot has changed in sexual and social culture over the years in America, but at the same time, a lot hasn't changed and a lot needs to change and get better. And if I were to tell someone about this class, I would let them know that you will learn a lot about that, but also you have to be open-minded because there are a lot of hard topics to talk about, funny topics to talk about, but in reality they're all serious and important to know when we learn about life today and if we want to continue to fight for, especially for women, for women's rights and all of that. So first I want to talk about things that have changed for the better within our sexual and social culture. So contraceptives, obviously back then obviously now they are available to most here in America. You can have the pill, IUD, whatever you want, and women are able to have control over whether they get pregnant or not, really, or even condoms now. Like, condoms aren't seen just for sex workers and all that. Like, they're seen to prevent STDs from anybody because it is more common now for women to have sex with multiple people, and obviously still judged for that, still has a negative stigma, but it has gotten better. But a piece that we used in class, someone over in class, was from American Sexual Histories by Elizabeth Reese. I think it was called Contraceptive Consumers is what it's called. And the quote that I found that I thought was really interesting and annoying at the same time is sexual intercourse rendered non-procreative through the use of unnatural, that is purchased, birth control was forbidden. So birth control was forbidden because they thought, what's the point of sex? It's unnatural if you're not trying to have kids. This obviously was before sex was more normalized for non-procreation during the sexual revolution. So that has gotten better nowadays. We have grown when it comes to the contraceptives and normalization of those. I know personally, I got off of birth control and my doctor thought I was crazy. So it's just interesting to see how things have changed, how you were seen as weird or a sex worker if you use condoms or like the pill or birth control, but now it's like, whoa, you be careful because you need that. So then you have, that's an example of something that has changed for the better, but there are things that have not gotten much better, a little bit better, but not much better. And that is the unrealistic expectations of women. So one of my favorite sources we used in class was the do's and don'ts, how a woman should wear a uniform. So I remember in class this driving me absolutely insane because all the don'ts, the first two on the list are don't cut your hair very short, it gives off a mannish effect, and the second is don't wear a long flowing hairdo because it doesn't look good with the uniform. So it's just like, you have to be absolutely perfect to make these people happy. And like the women, this is for women who are in the military and they are given this right to join the military, but they really they're still controlled by how they look, what they wear, what they do in the military. And another one that drove me insane for this was how women couldn't be seen in their uniforms at bars or nightclubs or go on dates with them or in them. And this one, don't smoke or drink in public while in uniform. Men did it, but women couldn't. This could be because it emasculated the men when they showed up to a date and they're also in uniform, and never threaten a man's masculinity, okay? That's just not good. And also another one that I liked were these ads from the women in the war. And I remember in class, I was like, these women all look the same. Why do they all look the same? And Professor Rowley, you were like, they aren't. That's just how they are depicted. And because they all are supposed to keep the hair like this, supposed to look like this, makeup, yada yada, you know? So, yeah, to me, they are all conventionally attractive women. And they wouldn't use women who aren't considered conventionally attractive on ads because, you know, like, oh goodness. But, so that was another thing that has not changed much. Like, within we see nowadays women sometimes are like, oh, you can't be overweight, but also you don't want to be too skinny. You gotta have an ass, gotta have boobs to have a curvy hourglass figure, but not too much hourglass. It's just like, so that's something that I actually really enjoyed talking about in class because that was something that connected to how I feel about life currently. And also that double standard of like women in uniform just don't emasculate men, and you still see that today. So finally, the third topic that I want to talk about was the objectifying of women, specifically in Playboy. Women are still objectified today, and that's another change that has not gotten great, or isn't like completely gone, but it is gotten better, but we still objectify women all the time. Like, you can, for example, the Cowboys cheerleaders, they're in their little uniforms and just things like that, and just you still see it today. And in Playboy, when Playboy first came out, like in the 50s, you see ads of women who were or ads or pictures in these magazines of women who are depicted as pets or animals in cages. I remember Tatum brought that up in class one day, a picture of a woman in a cage in like a animal print outfit. Just seeing women as a pet, a thing that you can own, you know, because you own pets. You have a relationship with your pets, but you own your pets. So that is frustrating. So the source that I brought for this was the Playboy Joins the Battle of the Sexes, and I wanted to point out the quote, most men are out for just one thing. If they can't get it any other way, sometimes they consent to marry the girl. Then they think they can brush her off in a few months and move on to new pickings. They ought to pay and pay and pay. So this shows that Playboy was made for single men, because there was another part in this source that talks about how men, the way to show off their masculinity, married men, was how big their family was, or how nice their car is that their family does, and like all this. But Hugh Hefner created this Playboy for single men, and men, like I said, most men are out for just one thing, which is sex, and this just proves my point that women are objectified. They are seen as objects that you just want to throw to the corner, and instead of having to marry them, you can and deal with them the rest of your life and go cheat on them. You read Playboy and you look at the naked women there to get your fixings. So that was the third subject that I really resonated with, just because we still see that today. Like social media, women are continuing to just put their bodies out there, which is totally great. I do it too. But I feel like, and you see the comments on the social media, it's just, sometimes they're just disgusting. And there's not much you can change in that sense. But yeah, so this course has really taught me a lot about how, like, I had a base level understanding of how women were objectified and how, like, the gender norms and all that, but I really was able to dig into a deeper level in this course with Professor Rowley, and it has contributed to my understanding of sex in America greatly. So I want to thank you for teaching me this, and thank you for listening.